Eyewitness News.
This is Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Ayanda Nyati. The Basic Education Department says 183 schools have been vandalized across the country since the start of the lockdown period. 3 institutions were broken into in KwaZulu-Natal in the past 24 hours. Mpumalanga has recorded the highest number of school burglaries with 72 institutions targeted. This is followed by Gauteng, which reported 55 break-ins during this period. Minister Angie Motshekga says she's horrified by the figures and is calling on community members to step in and assist. Her spokesperson, Elijah Mhlanga.
If we were to take into account the fact that we are working against time since the COVID-19 situation forced our schools to close. And right now we are trying every possible plan that can assist us to recover the time. But with this type of damage caused to our schools, we are less likely to succeed in those schools.
Police Union Pop Crew says it's against any form of brutality against members of the public. There have been incidents of alleged police and army brutality since the president announced the national lockdown in an attempt to stop the spread of COVID-19. In the latest incident, an Alexandra man died allegedly at the hands of security officials. The police and defense force are yet to give their version of events. Edwin and City has more.
Collins Khoza's death in Alexandra brought to 9 the number of people killed since the start of the COVID-19 lockdown last month. Khoza's death has caused public outcry, with members of the community calling for action against law enforcement officers alleged to have been involved. IPID says it's investigating several cases implicating police officers in provinces including Limpopo, Gauteng, Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. Edwin in City, Eyewitness News.
A doctor at a Klerksdorp hospital in the northwest has tested positive for COVID-19. It's understood the practitioner recently traveled outside the province for a medical conference almost a month ago, where she may have been in contact to 44 other healthcare workers. It's understood she wasn't showing any COVID-19 related symptoms at the time. The department's Tebogo Lekwatane says the doctor, who is now in quarantine, has visited 3 hospitals, including its maternity ward and operating theatre.
In terms of the people that we came into contact with, those people will be screened to check whether they don't have symptoms, and if they do have symptoms, they will obviously be tested. In terms of the facility itself, our health officials will visit the area to investigate if there is a need for any further sanitization of the area.
Police and the South African Maritime Safety Authority are looking into the circumstances surrounding 2 Tanzanian nationals being thrown off a Panamanian-flagged cargo ship in the coast of KwaZulu-Natal. The ship, known as the MV Top Grace, was held in the port of Richards Bay since last month when the incident occurred, pending the investigation. The Maritime Safety Authority says the ship's captain and the ship owner face charges of attempted murder as well as breaking the country's maritime laws. Nkosi Konatuma has the story.
It is believed that 2 Tanzanian nationals illegally boarded the gigantic MV Top Grace 4 weeks ago, hoping that it will sail to a wealthy country where they could start new lives. However, those ambitions were thwarted when they were found hiding on the ship after it set to sail from Durban. The 2 Tanzanian nationals have claimed that they were given life jackets and bottles of water before being thrown into the ocean. They spent 2 days at sea before washing to the Zinkwazi beach on the KZN North Coast. The SA Maritime Safety Authority's Venom Keller says they want the ship owners to be held accountable.
But we're also looking at charging the vessel with stopping illegally in South African waters. In other words, that they were not on innocent passage, and try and hold them accountable with regards to that.
A total of 7 senior officers on the ship face criminal charges related to the incident. Kosikon, Doom, Eyewitness News, Durban.
And with some European countries considering to ease restrictions aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19, the World Health Organization has warned that masks are not an alternative to a lockdown. Billions of people across the world are under strict stay-at-home orders as the global infections edge closer to 1.9 million cases. The organization has stressed that all countries should be rolling out comprehensive testing drives in order to save lives. The body held its daily briefing in Geneva in Switzerland this evening. It's long advised governments to test as many cases as possible to stay ahead of the pandemic. Director Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus says countries simply cannot operate in isolation.
Our global connectedness means the risk of reintroduction and resurgence of the disease will continue. Ultimately, the development and delivery of a safe and effective vaccine will be needed to fully interrupt transmission.
On the weather front, a partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng tomorrow with scattered thundershowers expected. Joburg dropping to an overnight low of 12 degrees, reaching a high of 25. Pretoria 13 and 27. Vereeniging 11 and a high of 26. Partly cloudy in Cape Town tomorrow, a light southeasterly forecast along with a low of 13 and a high of 22 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The Basic Education Department says 183 schools have been vandalized across the country since the start of the lockdown period.
Eyewitness News. In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za.
Keeping you up to date with all the latest news and developments on COVID-19 702.
Sports Talk with Buhle Madulini. Live, online, the 702 app on
Hello and welcome to Outlook. Coming up on the programme, a woman whose close relationship with dogs may have saved her life and the lives of many others. For as long as Claire Guest can remember, she'd had a special relationship with our canine friends.
My parents used to push me in my pushchair to church on a Sunday, and apparently they were quite bemused by the fact that I used to become hysterically excited every time I saw a dog and tried to jump out, to sort of launch myself out of the pushchair.
But nobody could have known how important Claire's bond with dogs would end up being for her. It all started one day when Claire was out walking her red Labrador, Daisy.
She kept on sort of jumping into my face and then jumping into my chest with these great big brown eyes looking at me, and I kept sort of pushing her off and saying, Daisy, what's the matter? Go and have a run round.
It seems Daisy sensed something was wrong with Claire, and sure enough, when Claire went to the doctor, things were far from okay. Hear her remarkable story after the news.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. The head of the World Health Organization has warned against the early lifting of restrictions imposed to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus said easing measures too quickly could lead to a resurgence in cases as the virus spreads very rapidly but is slow to decelerate. Several countries are considering relaxing restrictions that have been in place for weeks as they bite into economic output. But Dr. Tedros said public health should be the main priority.
Some countries are considering when they can lift these restrictions. Others are considering whether and when to introduce them. In both cases, these decisions must be based first and foremost on protecting human health and guided by what we know about the virus and how it behaves.
Italy has become the second country in the world to register more than 20,000 coronavirus deaths after the United States. Another 566 deaths were reported on Monday. Here's our Europe regional editor, Mike Sanders.
Italy has joined the United States in grim terrain. But the Italian fatalities are around half as many as 2 weeks ago, and there was a fall in admissions to intensive care. Britain is behind the curve. It is now suffering more coronavirus deaths a day than any other European country, not counting those who die outside of hospitals. Officials said they expected the tally to get worse this week before levelling out. And Dominic Raab, who's in charge while the Prime Minister Boris Johnson convalesces from the disease, said he did not anticipate easing restrictions when they're reviewed this week.
The US Navy says a sailor from the aircraft carrier whose captain was controversially sacked has died of coronavirus. The sailor is one of more than 580 crew on the Theodore Roosevelt to have the disease. The ship's captain, Brett Crozier, was relieved of his command after the leaking of a memo in which he begged the Navy to evacuate the ship to save lives. McDonald's in China has apologised after one of its restaurants in the city of Guangzhou banned black people over fears that Africans are spreading coronavirus. Danny Vincent reports from Hong Kong.
McDonald's has confirmed that it temporarily closed a restaurant in the Chinese city of Guangzhou after what it called unauthorised communication from staff banning black customers. Africans in the southern Chinese city say they've been facing discrimination following unfounded online rumours that the African nationals were spreading the coronavirus. Community leaders say hundreds have been evicted from their homes and hotels. Many claim they've been forced into quarantine, regardless of whether they've travelled outside the country. McDonald's says it will further re-educate staff on the company's values.
World News from the BBC. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says about 1 million people in Ethiopia are in need of food aid after swarms of locusts destroyed vast areas of farmland. The UN found that desert locusts had damaged about 200,000 hectares of mostly sorghum and maize fields. Kenya and Somalia have also been badly affected. There are reports of another attack by Islamist militants in northern Mozambique's gas-rich Cabo Delgado province. Growing insecurity in Mozambique since 2017 has left at least 700 people dead and more than 200,000 displaced. Will Ross reports.
The jihadists took small boats from the mainland to attack one of the Quirimbas islands. Some of the victims drowned in the sea as they tried to get away from the gunmen, who then destroyed homes, schools and health centres. Once again, the authorities have said nothing about the attack. Last week, Mozambique's police force said it had no information about another series of raids that are reported to have left more than 50 people dead. Until recently, little had been known about those behind the violence, but the Islamic State group has claimed some of the attacks and has uploaded videos of gunmen addressing rallies in towns and villages where their black and white flags were flying.
A series of tornadoes and severe storms that struck the southern United States on Easter Sunday is now known to have killed at least 19 people. The worst affected states were Mississippi, Louisiana and Alabama, whose governors have declared states of emergency. The storms destroyed hundreds of buildings. A video game that's become a worldwide bestseller during the pandemic is being removed from Chinese online stores after activists started using it to criticise Beijing. Nintendo's Animal Crossing New Horizons allows players to customise their own islands and invite friends to visit, but pro-democracy demonstrators in Hong Kong are using it to stage protests. And that's the latest BBC News.
Welcome, I'm Rajan Datar and you're listening to Outlook, the place to come if you...
delivered his traditional Easter message to the city of Rome and the world. The Pope said the resurrection of Jesus is not a magic formula that makes problems vanish, but it is the victory of love over the root of evil. This victory does not bypass suffering and death, but passes through them, opening a way in the abyss, transforming evil into good. The Pope then expressed his gratitude and affection to doctors and nurses and to all who work diligently to guarantee the essential services necessary for civil society, and to the law enforcement and military personnel who in many countries have helped ease people's difficulties and sufferings. Former employees of airlines and hotels in Sweden, forced out of work due to the coronavirus, have not given up. They have seen in it an opportunity to train as assistants in hospitals or retirement homes, a much needed workforce during the coronavirus pandemic.
Here in the Stockholm region, we are in a big need of this kind of support out in the elderly care and also in the homes. Because now slowly the COVID-19 is spreading along this group of people.
Caregivers and patients with symptoms are tested in these tents and sent to hospitals in Stockholm if necessary. Nearly 900 people have died from the coronavirus in Sweden, and there are nearly 10,000 confirmed cases in the country.
Get all the latest from the world of football on Football Planet. All the results and match highlights of the most prestigious championships in Africa and beyond. Top attractions and action.